Hey everybody, welcome to So We Were Told. This is our new show, the Marvel Monologues, and I have a new guest. My friend Megan is joining me. Hi, Megan.
Hi.
So today, obviously, it's a Marvel themed show. We are going to discuss X-Men 97. And right off the bat, Megan, best Marvel animation show or best Marvel show, period.
That's like a lofty claim. I will say probably my favorite Marvel animated show thus far. Although I don't dig deep into the depths of the Marvel Animation Studio, I'll admit. I watched the What If series, which I enjoyed, but this hit my nostalgia in a way that like
Yes.
nothing else will.
I
So
feel like it sets the bar pretty high for any of their future projects. And I would venture to say it's the best produced show they did. Maybe Loki season two battling it out a little bit. But in terms of the pacing and it not feeling like a movie that got chopped up into pieces, which a lot of people
yes.
complain about with the Disney Plus shows of all sorts, not just Marvel. Um, I think this nailed it. I told somebody, well, actually, I told Andy, or no, different Andy. Sorry, I got confused in my head. Not the one you've all met.
Not my friend Andy.
Yeah. My other friend Andy, whom I work with, I said that the Star Wars writer should really talk to the X-Men 97 team on how to pace a show because they've been struggling in some places.
I mean, let's be real, no matter what Star Wars does, there's going to be people angry about Star Wars.
There
Uh,
is,
and
but
and they're called fans of
yeah.
Star Wars.
But
So
the conversation he was bringing up that like some of their episodes are like 45 minutes and some are like 22 minutes, and you're like, can you make them more
consistent, yeah.
yeah, and like learn how to pace an episode a little better. He says it doesn't help the argument they're chopping up a movie when like they don't match the sizes. Um,
True. True.
all right. So we're gonna briefly go through every episode and like pros and cons, whatever you however you want to say it, and we'll just discuss really briefly, and then we're going to do overall thoughts and talk about where we think it's going to go in season two and when we might see season two. So, episode one was titled "To Me, My X-Men," and I'm reading the IMDb little, which I think were the official descriptions they put out to everybody. Which it's really funny in hindsight to go back and look at these because they were trying to hide so much of what was going on. So it says, Cyclops races to find the source of the new anti-mutant technology. What do you think, Megan?
I think that almost says nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah, they certainly didn't want to say like they're trying to track down Henry Gyrick and Bolivar Trask and
Yeah, yeah.
technologies, Sentinels, and so yeah, they were. I don't know why they wouldn't say that. Sentinels are such a pivotal part. It's
And
not
it was
even
in the
like a
trailer.
spoiler.
Like they gave that part away in the trailer. We knew they were there.
I If there were no Sentinels in an X-Men cartoon, I would be upset.
Like,
I would think
what
it failed.
changed?
Yeah, it's like okay. Um, but I didn't realize, and I don't know if you did, I read and like watching this again, it made sense. This literally picks up where 92's animated series
Yes.
ends. So
It's
like
like a year after the last episode because that's why they're able to have a pregnant person on the show and then she wasn't there in the last episode and that kind of stuff. So uh
yeah.
a year has gone by supposedly.
Yes, and there's no mention of a pregnant person in the description given by
No,
Disney.
no.
So that
Although
was
what's funny is the snapshot, at least on IMDb for this episode, maybe it's the thumbnail on the Disney Plus app as well, is the scene when they're running from the basketball courts up to the mansion, and shall I say Jean is very pregnant and doing the whole like I'm rubbing my belly like pose in her referee shirt. So I thought that's it's kind of funny. It's like, oh, you're not going to mention this picture that you're showing everybody.
nope. I
Um,
mean, IMDb is the Wild West. You can't control what people upload and what is screenshots.
yeah. What I did find really poignant in this description is they make Cyclops the focus, and let's give credit where credit is due. This show has rehabbed Cyclops in a way that 20th Century Fox could never.
Oh my God, I was hoping this would come up because literally from episode one, I was like, oh, thank God he's not so annoying. Like he was like I hated Cyclops so much based on purely X-Men 92, which I guess is what I'm gonna call it now
Yeah.
to differentiate. But like I hadn't read any comics when I watched that show because I was younger. And I was like, what a wet blanket. Like this guy sucks. He's so boring. He's like such a downer on all the fun.
He's
And
the
then I
Boy
did,
Scout.
yeah, but like I'm not saying nice people are annoying. I'm saying Cyclops was super annoying.
What's
And
funny
then
is, have you gone back and watched the original series recently?
yes,
Okay.
actually in preparation for this, just because also I was like, I need a little X-Men in my life. I know this 97's coming. So yeah, I did. And I was like, yes, I still hate Cyclops.
Okay.
He
That was my
sucks.
next question because I rewatched it like the year before Disney Plus came out, and we didn't know we were going to get this at all. And I bought it on iTunes for probably way too much money. Um, and there were certain episodes where I was like, huh, Cyclops is right, and nobody's listening to him.
Because he was such the dad and not like the cool dad. The dad that just do your homework, get in by your curfew,
But I
no
can relate.
no questions asked, no leeway, like no fun. We're here,
As a,
it's serious business.
as a person who oversees several programs with young adults, I
I
see myself in Cyclops more.
I mean, look, I fully like get that character. I just didn't. I was like, this guy sucks. He's the worst one on the team. And then I did end up, when I got older, reading some comics, and I'm like, okay, Cyclops, he's a bit tortured, but for like reasons that are very obvious. And I don't even think in the comics he's that bad. I just feel like they did him dirty in 92.
They did not get into enough backstory to give him a motivation to be that way. And so
Right, right. It's
now
like,
that Xavier's gone, he's the de facto leader, he's expecting a child, and it's like, but he feels like he has to protect his group. You know what I mean? So he comes across way more badass because he's out there like defending them. You know what I mean? Whereas we've seen Nagy before.
and I thought they let him joke, be
Yes.
a little fun in this series.
He had some
Like,
great one-liners too.
yeah, and he smirked, man. We'll get to it, but when he was driving that Porsche and his Cable's like, "You got a Porsche?" That little side shot of him being like, "Yeah,
Yeah,
I got a
dude.
Porsche." I was like, "Cyclops, you have personality."
Um,
Ugh.
I don't remember the gentleman's title, but one of the people working on the show did an interview and they talked about how do you use a character that you can't see their eyes? Like how do you emote facially in animation versus how you would direct somebody doing it in live action where they can move their mouth muscles or grimace or whatever. And I'm sorry for that sound effect. Facebook is yelling at me apparently on uh something. Um, and they said that when he is, where you would use your eyes for emphasis or something, they use that like that screen wipe effect on his visor, almost
Yeah.
like a wink. And I didn't think about it until he said that, and like the first episode already aired when he said this in some sort of interview. And from that point on, every time I saw it, I was like, yeah, that's the like
He's winking at you.
it gave him so much more like visual character that like I thought these people are brilliant in how they reintroduce these characters to people in a modern context in a modern um animation style, but still able to make it look and feel like it came straight from 1997.
I mean, can I just say one of my favorite parts in the first episode was the pandering of giving us two basketball games with the team, and Cyclops had fun in them, and that wasn't even really the focus for me. It wasn't like, oh yay, Cyclops is fun. It was just like we get basketball scenes again. It's kind of like Top Gun. You got to have a basketball scene
Yeah,
if you,
yeah.
but Cyclops got to have fun in it. Like he wasn't such a wet blanket. And
It,
so
it,
that
it,
made me feel like, okay, we're starting off strong. Maybe we're getting this guy where he needs to be likable because ugh,
you
X-Men
almost forget
92.
they live at a school, and so they have like basketball courts and things just like around their house. Um, which is fun. Someone pointed out that like this whole season, granted they only had 10 episodes as opposed to like 24, like they would have had on Fox Kids. But you didn't see
Actually,
hardly any students.
the seasons, the way they break them up, at least on Disney Plus, the past show, I think the seasons were only like 15 or so,
I think
maybe.
there's a couple that got short-changed, but there's like one season in there that's like 24.
Yeah, I don't know that it's one of the good ones, if I'm being honest. The last season was kind of rough.
The last
Like,
season, I think, only had 9 episodes.
yeah,
That's
it
when they
wasn't.
changed the animation department, and so it doesn't even look right.
No, I
They
mean,
gave Jubilee like a bob, and it looks terrible.
yeah, there was some questionable choices made in that last season, even like storyline wise. But yeah, I loved this opening episode. I mean, I was set up to love this, and granted, like I don't, I'm gonna be really honest and say I don't really like take X-Men media in like a very super critical lens. I'm there to have fun, and I was just like over the moon when I saw this. I was like, oh my God, we've struck gold. I'm so excited. So I was not here to like hate on it at all.
So at the end, we are introduced to Magneto with the final will and testament of Charles Xavier, which I found out, I didn't realize that's an actual comic book story. And that like the scene of him holding that book is like a panel in one of
Mhm.
the comic books. And I was just like, oh, you guys are so great. So what do you think about the idea of Magneto leading the team?
I think it really burned Cyclops bad. Like, I've-
It did. But don't you
uh,
think they like had good like playing off each other in the early part?
Yes, I think Cyclops was more mad at his, absentee father than he was at Magneto coming in. I mean, he didn't love it, but it was Professor X who apparently willed the school and leadership of the team. And I respected Magneto coming in and being like, I'm going to give Charles's whole philosophy a shot. I have never really been into it, but we'll give it a try. And to his credit, and we'll get into it in other episodes, he did give it a try. He
He
did.
did. He did.
Um,
Um,
so
what do you think about his new outfit?
I I like the classic Magneto outfit better. It's so corny, but I do love it.
I I don't like the M.
I know that's what kind of killed it for me. I mean, I'm like, okay, you want to like show off the guns, whatever. But it just, I
Even
did,
retiring the helmet, I'm fine with that. Just the M.
I was happy when we got back to nostalgia outfits. I'm gonna be honest with you.
Okay, so Mutant Liberation begins is episode 2, and it says when Magneto is forced by the UN to stand trial, a group of anti-mutant rioters test his resolve. So basically, as you said, Magneto giving it an honest try, but he is
Hmm.
a war criminal in this universe. So, um,
Yes.
the UN took objection to him being on U.S. soil again. Um, I guess Genosha or wherever he was, it was Genosha, right? In the last season of the original series.
I
I
believe
remember him
so.
being in like a cave, and then he comes out and is like, I guess I'll go with you to help Charles. And then like
Yeah, it must have been Genosha or something, or
before they built more stuff. I feel like that year gap, they got a lot done, I'm gonna say.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
Maybe he was like traveling the globe. We don't know, but yeah,
he was out of the UN's grasp, I guess.
Which where would he go? Because it's the UN, so literally just a lot of places would be gunning for him. But
Go to the Savage Land.
maybe he was.
Maybe,
We
I
did
don't know.
not get to see the Savage Land,
I was
which
shocked, honestly, that they didn't at least mention it. Or
I
did
was
it
a
get
little
mentioned?
I
Did
was a
they
little
name drop it at
disappointed.
all?
Yes, actually, the closest we got was seeing like a vision of
Yes.
Rogue and him in the Savage Land, and I think that was
I,
just like a
I,
jealousy vision.
yeah. This show is very horny, let's just say.
I
Right,
love it. Can I
right out
just
the right,
Zaddy Magneto? I was
right out the gate. Okay, so Magneto agrees to stand trial. And they put the one of the collars on him and chain him up. Again, another panel that they recreated. Great artistry here. And um the what are they called? Friends of Humanity decides they're gonna try their new anti-mutant weaponry, which they've assembled using uh Sentinel technology.
yeah, which we
And
saw they were raiding in the first episode.
yes.
So that was the yeah.
And there is a new character whom they called the Executioner,
Yep.
which I thought was hilarious because I'm pretty sure that was a wrestler's name, like a made up wrestler in WCW versus NWO Revenge.
It
And that's what I thought about the whole time they kept saying his name. But he has a special weapon that is Sentinel technology mixed with what are the collars called? I forget.
I think I always think of them as like suppressors. I don't
Yeah.
think that's right though, but
The idea is it would dampen or take away their mutant abilities. And he puts Magneto in his sights, and Storm of all people takes the bullet for him, so to speak, the zap, I guess you would say. And so she loses her powers in defense of Magneto. And Magneto sees this and is incensed because
mhm.
he's like, I just took over this team and I already get someone that nearly killed. So they had released him to help defend the United Nations because they weren't just attacking mutants, they were just going, hog wild and attacking people. And so he raises the council and raises the executioner up into the stratosphere, and he says this great line at the end of a speech. He says, "Don't let me let you down," or something like that. I'm paraphrasing, and it's a double entendre because he doesn't want to let them down, like as a ally, but he also doesn't want to just drop them in the moment. What do you
I
think of
mean, deep down I think he probably does, but he's doing that. What would Charles do?
this? Yes,
He's thinking about that. Charles would not kill them all. Um, so I think it is, oof, they're really testing him. And I
on
think
day
that's,
one, like he just got this job.
yeah, it's just, and I feel bad for Storm because she doesn't know, like, they don't know that what happens is you lose your powers. She
Hmm.
was just going to take a bullet because I think Storm is established. She understands the team dynamic of like, we cannot have like the implication of our team leader getting, especially the team leader who is trying to do the right thing and show up to the UN for his trial as he's supposed to. So I think she in that moment is like, okay, on his side. And it just sucks for her that that's the outcome is
And I
she
think at the
discovers.
time she realized that Magneto was holding the a force field up for the UN members that were like the
He was
council or whatever.
doing the right thing.
Yeah.
He was
So
being
so
a good
if he
person.
got taken out, they would be in risk.
Okay, yeah, I guess that is the fair point. I just yeah, it sucked for her. She was very upset. It was heartbreaking to see her be like, "Oh no, I can't feel the wind anymore."
Oh, the way
Um,
the actress said that line,
yes, and the original
heartbreaking.
voice actress, I love that
Yes,
they got her back.
she's
Everything
amazing.
Storm ever says has the gravitas of like it's the biggest announcement in your life. And I always loved that as a kid. I was like,
I think
she's
we should
so
pause it and say that for a second because in the original series, they got so much praise for making this decision because they hired stage actors for all the original characters. So they would have that kind of like adult, less cartoony feel because they
Storm
were,
was always speaking to the back of the theater, like
yes,
she
yes.
was projecting.
And in an interview with that actress, I cannot remember. I think Celie Smith, I want to say is her name. Um, or maybe that's her middle name and last name. I know Celie Smith is it's like a three name, like Jennifer Love Hewitt. But anyway, so I forgot what I was saying. Oh, um, most of the voice cast is back. A
Hmm.
couple people have moved on, and I don't know if that's because their voices changed. They feel like they couldn't do the same delivery. Gambit's original actor is now Cable.
Yep.
Um, um, the lady who did Jubilee actually gave up her role in order for an Asian actress to portray Jubilee because she felt like that was better representative of the character.
But
Um,
she does show up
yeah,
as
we get a cameo, and I think she voices someone else very briefly. The actress who played the original Jean Grey is the
Dr. Cooper.
yeah, I was gonna say UN lady, but that's not even her title. Um, there is someone else. There were four major people that moved on to different characters, and I can't think of the other one.
I think the original, oof, I was gonna say Magneto, but I don't think that's right.
The
I
original
think that,
Magneto passed away, so we
yeah, I
already
was gonna say
got
I think
that.
he passed.
The original Cyclops passed.
Yeah. Oh,
Um,
just sorry I drug him through the mud. I never hated his voice. I just
no, he
hated
was
what
a
he was
great.
saying.
The whole cast has always been great. No one has like half-assed their work on the show ever, um, except for maybe some of the animators when they went to lesser establishments. Anyway, um, but yes, the Storm's actress delivered that line with like every fiber of her being, and you honestly felt that like that person was in grief of their self, which felt like immense pain.
I mean, it like that was always Storm's whole thing. I mean, she of all of them felt like she was more connected to her powers on the because she was like a goddess.
Yes.
So I could see how that would be just very, very upsetting
And
to
to this day in the lore, there's not been another character like Storm. There's not been another character that is weather centric. So like she is one of a kind.
yeah, yeah.
Anyone
But
can do lasers, anyone can do stabby stabs. She's one of a kind.
stabby
Um,
stabs, my favorite power.
Wolverine's favorite power.
Yeah.
Um, okay, so Magneto gets the UN to pardon him, which
He saved them. It would be kind of mean if they were like, and now you go to jail.
yeah, so
Sorry.
and at the very end of the episode, everyone says, well, no one got to say goodbye to Storm. Storm just decided on her own she would leave. And she left her lightning bolt necklaces or earrings, excuse me, with her uniform.
Oh,
And Morph trying to be, we haven't talked about Morph, but Morph is back. He's full time.
yeah.
He's staying in his neutral state instead of the normal Caucasian male state we usually saw him in, which is cool. He has this cool look. He stands out more. I love it. Um, and he's usually comic relief or at least like the cameo factory, but he is also like he tries to like break the tension when there's tension. And everyone's like freaking out, like, what are we gonna do? What are we gonna do? And he's like, I bet she'll be back before you know it. And then the doorbell rings. He's like, see, that's probably her now. Although, why would Storm ring the doorbell?
I was gonna say, I think she has a key.
But anyway, so he runs to the door to greet what who he thinks will be Storm and Jean Grey, and very like um emaciated, kind of like I don't
I
think I said
just escaped from a hospital and I'm
yeah,
still
like
wearing
she
the gown.
and they're like, what? And she like in typical uh X-Men 92 fashion, she passes out.
Well,
And
yeah.
that should have been the first clue that's the real Jean Grey. But
She
anyway,
doesn't make the like, oh God, this is gonna sound
ah,
so weird because it always sounds like sex sounds, but it's like, oh,
it's too heavy. Um,
oh.
but anyway, Scott and everyone kind of look at the Jean Grey they've been with for the past year, the one that just gave birth to Nathan, and they're like, "Oh, we left out that while the UN was under attack, Jean Grey gave birth to baby Nathan."
Yeah.
And Rogue delivered the baby because
Because haters that they are at the hospital were like, no, we don't take care of mutants here.
yeah, bigotry was alive and well in the medical field. Um,
Uh, Bigotry is alive and well everywhere, my friend.
it is, but I'm just saying this was a very okay. We don't see enough of this happening in like modern medicine dramas. So like people tend to like not realize that like at a point in this country, a doctor could refuse to operate on a black person or Hispanic person, or more recently, a gay or lesbian person. So
Or a woman who
or
might be pregnant.
or someone who had AIDS or something, because like if you remember the AIDS epidemic at all, anyone who's watching this, like they didn't even want to touch people who were diagnosed with AIDS because they were seen as just like
Well, everybody was like scared because they didn't really fully understand how it was
yeah,
transmitted. So
but
it
they
was
might as
like,
well have been lepers at that point because it was
yeah,
like,
it's like
oh my God.
I don't want to risk it. Like,
Yeah. So I thought that was very like stunning to see them have a doctor do that. So like I was just like, oh my gosh, this show's going for it.
I
Uh
think they went a little harder this time
I liked
around.
it. It's a good show of how people probably would have acted about mutant kind in the real world. In a way, this was the best analog for bigotry in this country, if not the world, that we've ever had in like modern entertainment.
I do feel like okay, so I was a kid. How old was I in 92? Like 12, I want to say. That doesn't seem right.
I would have
No,
been,
I was like 7. I added 5 years.
yeah,
Um, so like I obviously did not like I understood like the X-Men stood in, they were the stand-ins for like minorities or whatever, but I feel like back in 92 times were simpler um in that like oh, it's just this could be like somebody who's not white or like somebody who's I don't even know if gay was like a big thing in 92. It
not
might have
it
just
was.
been like
I
I don't
I would argue that the gay community was probably around, but it wasn't so much in our forefront of our minds as 7-year-olds because it wasn't in media.
yeah.
You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like,
to be clear, list watchers, I am not like proposing that gay people just popped up somewhere after 1992. That would be
the
insane.
dawn of the
Um,
gays.
but like, yeah, as a kid, it was like, I guess I understood like, oh, I know that some people, like, not all the people in my class are like white, and I could be like, okay, I get that. But now we have gotten so much further upon along in the world is a little bit burning and the hatred and the rhetoric around people who are not white cis people,
Yes.
straight people, it's like it hits a little harder and I think I'm glad they went harder because it's not like a cutesy like oh it's trying to solve racism. It's like dude, people are under attack. Like
Yeah.
people's lives are in
Uh,
jeopardy.
and like, Jean Grey is not like a healer. And so like if she had like bled out trying to give birth at home or something, she could have died just as a normal person would have died. So like the fact that a doctor was refusing her medical attention based on her abilities, that's a big thing. That anyone who's a minority may have gone through at some point in their life when seeking healthcare.
Yes, we two white people are sitting here ruminating about it, which I realize is like, look, we're the ones who are here. But I
It's all
do
right.
also
At least we have
acknowledge
a
that,
man and a woman on the show.
yeah, two cis white people. Um, I do acknowledge though that like the analogy is not perfect because at the end of the day, like Jean Grey has like telekinetic powers. Like
Hmm.
she might be hated, but she can move stuff with her mind and like do some damage. So she's still not exactly like the lowest on the
Yeah,
societal
I
ladder.
wasn't trying to insinuate she like was nerfed or
No,
something.
no, no. I feel like it just always comes up, like, especially with when people who are in minority classes are actually talking about it. It's like, well, X-Men's cool, but also like, I can't not be black, or
Yeah.
I don't have like laser eyes. And it's like, I totally get that. Um,
And I think the analogy works better when we get to Genosha and we
yeah,
have the people who have like outward mutations, like the people like the warlocks and things like this.
yes, and the implications of like a genocide.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. Anyway, so we're probably gonna go more than 30 minutes at this point. But I'm
I
enjoying the
mean,
conversation, so we'll go with it.
I
Um,
I love this. Yeah, I thought that this season ruled and it went hard and I liked it a lot. So,
um, so episode 3 is all about the two Jean Greys.
mhm.
Where the second one come from, what happened, blah 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 blah. And we find out that one is a clone. I love that like Beast was really terrible at like he couldn't cure Storm and he couldn't fix baby Nathan, which we'll get to in a second. But he just did like one little blood test. He's like, well, you're older, so you have to be you have to
I
be.
mean, look, I'm going to go out on a limb and say it's a lot easier to determine if someone's a clone than it is to be like, what do I do with like this future disease? And
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
like
I
I
agree, but I just thought it was Hank got the short end of the stick in his expertise this season. I hope they rectify it. They made him out to be a good engineer, but he was a terrible physician in most cases.
look, he always wore a lab coat, which I thought was really funny because he's basically just in a lab coat and undies.
He
But
has
the lab coat
shorts,
makes him
ma'am. They are
official.
shorts.
Sure, okay. Okay. But yeah. So like I love Hank, to be clear. I'm so glad his voice original actor is back because it just like when he and Wolverine talk, I'm just like, oh,
And
it's you.
I didn't realize until someone pointed out to me that he has catchphrases. Did you catch his catchphrases?
Oh my stars and garters.
Yeah, I did
That's
not
huge.
realize that that was his catchphrase until someone pointed out to me before the season started. And then when he started saying, it, I was like, "Oh my God, dude loves his phrase." But I'm
Yes,
here for it. I support it, but I think it's hilarious.
he's great. And that does come, I believe, straight from the comics because I know like of the ones I've read.
I don't even know what it means. Like, what does "Oh my stars and garters" mean?
Oh my stars and garters. I just think it's like, oh my, but like
Lord.
I too do not know.
Um, So anyway, we come to discover that there was foul play afoot involving none other than the Summers family stalker, Mr. Sinister.
Oh my God, like get a hobby. This guy cannot get off their family and it's so I just like every time he shows up, I'm like not you again, the Summers really because it in the X-Men 92 I was always like Scott Summers, that's who you're going after, Mr. Boring. Why are
There's
you so obsessed with him?
there's one episode where he doesn't care about Scott or Jean, and it's the one where it's in the final um season where everything's crappy, and they bring that like orange or yellow and black and white like virus guy, the
Mhm.
Zorlax or something. I always feel like I'm saying the thing from Dr. Seuss, but
It's not the Snorlax.
the Xilanx or something.
Phalanx,
There you go,
right? Phalanx.
something
Oh
like
yeah.
that. Anyway, so he's the first to discover it, I guess, and so he contacts the X-Men via like Skype call or something, and it was like, "Hey, I know I'm a bad dude, but like we gotta solve this virus that's taking over." And the whole episode is him and Beast and like one other like smart person that you've seen in those 5 seasons trying to solve it all or whatever. But yeah, other than that one episode, he's obsessed with the Summers. And it's revealed
Obsessed.
that he switched them and basically wanted the clone Jean to get pregnant with Scott, which is weird because it's
because he
like
wants
I
that baby.
made you to get that dick.
Yeah, I mean,
That was her one job.
sending you in. Although
And
she didn't. You, I'm still not like fully clear because like they don't say it. He refuses to tell them when he switched these two out, and
yes.
they both have all the same memories.
Do
So
you want
I'm
to know my
like,
theory?
what is your theory?
My theory is it happened after um like some point in the end of season 4. Do you remember the end of season 4, which was supposed to be the original finale, and somebody was taking all the psychics and stuff
Oh,
because
vaguely.
she was that's when they actually got married. Remember they fake got married because Morph was the
Yeah,
minister or whatever.
you know
Um
what? Did you sign the paperwork? You're probably still legally married just because
anyway,
Morph isn't a priest.
so they decide to actually get married, and Jean gets abducted after the wedding, and she's like in her wedding dress like the whole time that they're storing all the psychics like they're action figures or whatever.
Yep.
I think it was then that Sinister had to swap them out because I am, first of all, there's not that much time between that taking place and,
The end.
yeah, roughly it's 2 years probably. But that's the after the weddings when they're probably going to start a family. So that's when he's going to get his child that he's been after for whatever. So I think it had to have happened then. And also, Jean's like hardly in season 5 at all. And the major scene I remember her having is an argument with Gambit about cooking. And I'm like, that's not very Jean Grey.
I
And
mean,
Madeline Pryor, which we should point out is the clone, she argues all the time. It's felt like once it revealed she was the clone.
well, she's got a lot to deal with
Do you see
emotionally.
that my point? Like in terms of their character traits, she's the arguer. Jean's the reflective one. And there's even like a scene that someone pointed out from X-Men the original series where Jean was very reflective because it's during the Days of Future Past storyline when they're trying to figure out who's gonna be the one the shooter or whatever. And
Hmm.
Scott's like, well, it wouldn't be me or Jean, and Jean's like, well, how do you know? I might want to kill someone. Like
He's like, what?
she's introspective enough that she's like, I don't know what I'm going to do in the future or whatever. Meanwhile, Madeline Pryor is like focuses only in certainties. Like she's like, I'm this is going to happen. And I'm going to do this. And
It's what made her a good basketball ref. So,
yeah, I guess, but like,
yeah.
at least she got to do that, right?
Yeah.
um, but so yeah, so Madeline Pryor is the actual birth mother of Nathan Summers. So Scott realizes. By the way, did you see the Wolverine memes where he's like, "Hey Scott, there's two genes."
Yeah. He did. Just like, okay. Okay.
I'm surprised they didn't make a joke about it, to be honest, with these writers. But uh so anyway, Scott realizes that like he loves the real Gene because that's who he spent his entire life with, but he doesn't not love the mother of his son. Does that
Well,
like so he's in a real quandary emotionally.
to be fair, they're clones. Like she
Yeah, they're the
acted.
same person.
Yeah. So it's kind of like hard. I was like, okay, we're immediately getting back to emo Cyclops, but at least he's like fun this time. You know, but yes, I can understand how it'd be like,
And he
so
says that at some point. He's like, he looks at Jean and he's like, I don't know what to do because she literally had my child like yesterday. And then you're back. And now I'm like, what is this? Like, from an emotional standpoint, I don't think there's a parallel that anyone can make to like say, I've been there, dude. Like,
no, I think it's just now it's like, let's just add fuel to that Cyclops torture fire.
yeah.
He's just can't
And he
deal with
kind of
it.
holds it in for a long time. He doesn't talk about it.
No, which is not healthy,
No.
not good modeling Cyclops. You are
Um,
allowed, you do not have to be a toxic male. You can talk about your emotions with people, with your friends. Go talk to like Hank and Wolverine.
Um, this does give us a really great scene with Magneto and Cyclops because they realize that when Madeline Pryor gets her diamond like Sinister taken over her and makes her Madeline Pryor, the Goblin Queen, which they never once explained. Why are you the Goblin Queen exactly?
I
But
felt like I related because it's like when I'm in a mood, I'm a Goblin Queen, okay?
I love the artwork and the animation, but to me, I just kept thinking like this is gonna be every girl's slutty Halloween costume this year.
I mean, have
But
fun, get that
I
bag,
was just like,
ladies.
but I was just like, yeah, this is gonna be like we're gonna see a lot of Madeline Pryor's.
I'm and I don't know if it was in the comics, but to me the funniest part was the name where it's like you don't really need to give yourself a name, but instead you're like, I'm the Goblin Queen. It's like, all right. Or you could just be like goth Madeline.
Yeah, like it's not Jean Grey, like something else. Like
I need a
not
new
like
code name. I'm the Goblin Queen. Like, okay. Okay.
I'm not gonna be
So
Marvel Girl. I'm the Goblin Queen, bitch.
exactly. It's like we cannot call you Madeline Pryor. We need to call you something else. But
So
yeah,
anyway,
it was wild.
she takes baby Nathan to Sinister, and I don't know what Magneto and everybody else was doing, but they show up and they're like, "What happened?" And they're like, "She took the baby."
Well,
And
she distracted them by making she
oh
like
yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah, I forgot about that.
implanted like everybody's worst fear or like deepest insecurities. She played out scenes for them, and it
I'm
was
not sure whose was actual hell, but someone's was.
I gotta think it's Cyclops. I mean, the guy must. Yeah, I forget the exact scenes that played out, but I know like Gambit saw Magneto and Rogue because he's they have already implied that like obviously they have a history, and so he's jealous. I remember that.
Wolverine saw something, but I don't remember what it was.
I feel like did they recreate the morph death thing? I thought they may
Yeah,
have.
it was something with Morph.
Yeah. Which I love that Wolverine has a
Okay,
BFF who was not in
we
the comic books. It was totally made
we
up for this cartoon.
saw what looked like a Jello creature in an elevator, and all he said was, "Oh my, one of us has the wrong floor," or something like that. Like he
Oh
didn't
my
look
stars and
scared.
garters.
He didn't seem scared at all. He's the only one that was completely calm in this situation.
Yeah, well, I mean, point being, like, everybody was sort of distracted by whatever
But
was going
anyway,
on in their heads.
that is the one moment we when we realize that the real Jean Grey is not like a complete waste of a character this season because she says enough and just like erases it all.
Yes, she is not into these shenanigans. No, she
Yeah.
takes care of that.
And that's when they all regrouped and Magneto's like, "What's going on?" And Cyclops goes, "She took the baby." And Magneto immediately like steps up and he's like, "Okay, we're gonna do something." And Morph's like, I know where he lives."
Poor
uh,
Morph. Like,
like I know I've been suppressing this trauma, but I still remember where he lives.
I have some deep emotional scars from
Um,
this, but let's go there right
yeah,
now.
so Magneto's like, "Great, you lead a troop of me, Cyclops, and Wolver. Who went with them?
I think it
Someone.
was Wolverine Cyclops, or no, it was Magneto, Cyclops, and Jean, I think. I think it
No,
was a limited group.
Jean stayed behind because she did all her psychic fighting in that episode.
Morph then? Maybe Morph.
There were four people, I think.
Yeah.
But anyway, so they or maybe I'm thinking the fact they got to Madeline Pryor and Jean was able to psychically connect with her because apparently when you have a clone it's easier.
I
Um
mean, twin magic, right?
yeah, and they had like a psychic battle in Jean's memories, which was kind of dope. Uh
Well, we don't know. I mean, they're shared memories.
yeah, whosever memories they are, I guess. Um, I'm still that it was that one episode from that point.
In
No,
your world, it was Jean's memories.
yeah. But anyway, so she snaps her of the spell, and so she's back to just nice Madeline Pryor, like alt Jean, and Um, she realizes that she cares more about Nathan than she cares about being an evil Goblin Queen, and
Go figure.
so she and Cyclops double team Sinister and get the baby, but we find out that Sinister was doing his evil experiments on Nathan and dropping him in goo.
He
Um
claimed he was trying to make him invincible or something like that. And the fact that they like removed him early caused problems.
yeah. So I was having trouble remembering the relationship between Apocalypse and Mr. Sinister in the original series because in the comic books, I'm told, I've not read them, um, that Mr. Sinister created the nanovirus to kill Apocalypse.
I don't remember if they cross paths in the original series. Again, I didn't read the comics. So I don't know, but
Well,
Mr. Sinister seems like he like mercenaries for whoever is willing to hire
so
him.
my thought process was when I was hearing this lingo was well, maybe he was making him invincible so that in the future he could survive the virus that kills Apocalypse or something. I was trying to make sense of it. Because I was like, why would you need this virus? Like I didn't understand. The
Well, because Apocalypse is Apocalypse's plan. Oh, because when Gambit is supposed to go kill Kelly or whatever and
Yeah.
mess up Bishop's future, wasn't that an Apocalypse thing? And then by messing that up or by stopping that, they ruined Nathan's future.
Yes.
So
Okay.
wasn't Apocalypse behind that? I
Yes,
might be.
because Mystique was the fake Gambit and she was working for Apocalypse.
Yes. Okay. So that's but that doesn't I don't know where Mr. Sinister was and all that, but yes, like Apocalypse
I was
started the
trying to
thing.
weave it all together, and maybe they'll do that more in season two. But yeah, so they take him out of the goo because they're like, ew, goo. And
Well, that
then
baby's in a goo.
which begs the question, how did he breathe in there? But anyway,
He's a
um,
baby. He's used to the like
it's
uh
been a couple days at this point. You're gonna drown the baby.
I'm just saying.
Um, so he has what looks like green band-aids all over his skin because of this virus. And they don't know what to do with him. Again, Beast is a terrible physician, but
Jason, you're really unfair to Beast who is like working with this Mr. Sinister
but
virus. What is he supposed to do?
somehow he's a brilliant engineer though because he fixed Bishop's thing on his wrist that
This
allows
time
him to
thing.
his time band.
Yeah.
But he only had enough juice to go one way. So he's gonna take baby Nathan into the future and hopefully they'll have um cure for him. And this was Madeline's idea, and Scott wanted nothing to do with it.
Which I mean, it's not the worst idea though, because Bishop knows that Forge is in the future, and Forge it can think of things to like build to solve problems. So
Yeah,
like I don't think it was the worst idea. Cyclops, they could send him back once they were done curing him.
that's what I thought. And I was like,
So
you can see your kid later. Calm down. Also, I was
Cyclops,
like, why don't you go with him? Like, I don't know. I
well,
thought
because I don't know how the time thingy on Bishop works, but like I think there's probably a difference between like having a little baby carry on versus like grab on, grown
like
man and
hold my
baby.
hand.
And as we find out, the whole baby thing doesn't work
Didn't
out
work.
either. So
Okay, so that's the end of that episode. Oh, and Gene and Madeline are like, hey, we're still cool, right? They're like, yeah, I'm just gonna go live somewhere else though, because I can't be here with you at the same time. And,
which, like, I don't blame her. That would be very confusing emotionally,
mhm.
physically, to Jeans walking around the mansion. Like, I just let
Which one
Madeline
did you
go.
spend time with, or which one has memories of you hanging out like years ago? Like,
Yeah, let Madeline go, like, set up a new life. It's fine. I think that was probably the best decision
So
to
then we
everyone except Cyclops.
yeah. Uh, so then we get our what I think is our only what I would call filler episode, Motendo slash Life Death Part One. This was reminiscent of when we used to have like cartoon shows like Dexter's Laboratory or things like that that had like a 15-minute episode, a break, and their 15-minute episode or 12-minute, whatever you want to say with commercials. Um, so on her birthday, a nostalgic Jubilee is forced to relive the X-Men's greatest adventures with an entertainment system transports her into a 16-bit video game. When I saw this was called Motendo, I was like, oh, damn it, we're gonna have a Mojo episode. I hate him.
Okay. I was going to say, how did you feel about the 92 version?
I did not like Mojo in 92 at all. I thought he was
Okay.
gross. He gave me the EBGBs.
I don't think he's designed to be someone or a character that you're supposed to like really embrace and love, to be fair. Like,
The only thing I liked was that he like lost the weight, but as soon as he got mad, like he got fat again. Like I didn't understand it, but
I
it was
think it was like a visual trick he was doing. I
okay.
think he was, um, but
It was
like,
funny to me because I at first saw him, I was like, ew, they changed his design. And then like I was like, oh no, he's back.
no, he just, maybe this was like a subtle Ozempic dig.
Yeah.
Uh, I, I actually liked the original 92 episode because it was not video games, it was TV
Television.
parodies. And I thought it actually was trying to say something as far as like it was showing this big like crowd of people who were like way too entertained by life or death situations in like TV scenarios. Like I think it was giving commentary on like entertainment as a whole and how it affects you as a viewer and how demanding it is on the people involved, as far as like societally speaking. I
You could
thought
make
this
the
one was
parallel with professional wrestling with people who want the like all the like chair shots to the head and stuff like that. They want the violence versus the entertainment value of it.
yeah, yeah, it's like because the gamification of like, okay, we put these two X-Men into this parody of this show, and then essentially they die. Um, and people are just like, yeah, like real into the bloodbath. So I thought that at that time, and as a kid, I didn't get it, obviously. I was just like, oh, I recognize this type of TV show. That's cool. But then this time around, I don't think there was that sort of commentary. And I also just I didn't care as much. I did think it was like I like the nostalgia of I remember the X-Men arcade games, and I thought it was trying to sort of hit that in a
Yeah,
couple
the
spots.
X-Men versus Capcom stuff.
Yeah, and I remember playing those games, like putting like feeding quarters into that machine with friends and like playing. Um, so like I like that, but just the fact that it was like 15 minutes and it was like a Jubilee Roberto episode, like no shade to them, but I was not invested in it in the same way as in 92, and I thought that since they were splitting the episode anyway into like this section and then we get into actually the part that moves the overall season
Narrative. Yeah.
forward, I'm like I don't know that we really needed to do that little jump back in time.
The only reason I can rationalize having it is it did level up Jubilee at the end, which I don't think they put enough emphasis on because it wasn't until I saw her use that move outside the video game that I was like, oh, this is her new ability. And I was like,
That's true.
you didn't play that up nearly as well. I thought that was only in the game.
That's true. And I will say that I liked Jubilee in this series better. Much like Cyclops, I thought Jubilee, not that she was boring, I actually thought in the 92 version she was frequently just very annoying.
Yeah.
Like I know that was kind of the role she was meant to be as like the young member of the team that is like kind of annoying, but I was always like, Jubilee, you're always causing them trouble. Like, ugh.
I think go, if we can do a little retrospective on Jubilee for a second, I think when they introduced the character, the mindset was she's supposed to be the eyes of the fans because she's being introduced to the X-Men the same time that the audience is. But after they did that, like for the first few episodes, it's like, okay, now what are you doing?
Yeah, now she's just kind of being the annoying
Yeah,
kid,
she's
and I
like,
don't
and
know.
her powers weren't nearly as impressive as anybody else's. So it's like, you can't send the girl with the firecrackers out into battle. What are you doing? Um,
Yeah.
so I I thought she played I felt like she played the Storm Rogue role that they played to her in season one,
Hmm.
because she's the one reaching out to Roberto and is like, you know, we're here for you, and we can be your family when your family can't. And
Yeah.
she was that voice of reason, and the apathy, or not empathy, that other people were lacking in his life. And so I enjoyed grown up Jubilee.
Yes, I love that she matured. And again, like this time around, I was just like, oh, Julie kind of is really cool. Like, and that's why I'm like, I don't really need this specific like segment with her.
They probably
Um,
could have intertwined it in a different episode, like the if we can get to the point where she gets the updated power, then we achieve the goal without the Motendo part. Does that make sense? So
yeah,
like,
or it could have been like a B plot in like
yeah,
because her and Roberto are always sort of disappearing off together to do like their stuff. Um,
because
but
they're
cutting it
still
into
younger than
like,
everybody else.
yeah, like they don't want to hang out with the boring adults. But
This is the
uh,
90s.
we should also like I would also I don't know if now or like later on in the talks, but gotta talk about Roberto as a character because just I loved him and what they were using him to sort of like the perspective of he doesn't want to come out to his parents, and then when he does, the response from his mother is so bananas. And I feel like it's such a good parallel to like, you
I
know,
we'll touch on more when we get there, because I think that's in a later episode. But yeah,
yes. Oh, yes. His mom is trash in multiple episodes. Don't worry.
yeah. So moving on from Motendo, basically we get Jubilee with an older version of herself that's been trapped in this game, because she's like a sprite that they made, and she managed to not die and age naturally in the game.
She
And
was she said it was like the betas or
yeah,
like the test uh NPCs that he created to run through. Like
yeah.
she managed to not get destroyed by the
Yeah,
code
she's been
somehow.
hiding in the code, and so
Yeah.
she rescues young Jubilee, or real Jubilee, and Roberto, and she basically teaches her her moves, and that's how Jubilee realizes how to use her powers differently to have more like offensive capabilities, which we see
And
her do later to much effect.
I was gonna say it's like her practice boss fight because the
Yeah,
boss in the game is Magneto.
yeah. And then later.
Yep.
The second half of this episode is Life Death Part One, which is basically Storm and Forge having their retirement, which looks like they're living in a ranch in Texas eating chili.
You know, I love that for them. It looks like it's very calming and nice. And the only downside for Storm is that Forge is trying to help her get her power back, and it's not working.
Yeah.
Like,
And then she finds out he's the one who made the collars that we talked about in the first couple episodes, and she's like, "Why would you do this?" And he's like, "Okay, well, technically, I didn't make them. I just kind of made blueprints or crap for other people to make them, and I didn't know what they were gonna do." Like,
yep, you gotta be careful when you put that sort of technology out into the world. That's a lesson that um
I wonder if that's
is relevant.
I wonder if that's Forge's weakness, is that he thinks of things, can't help but write them down, and he's like, "Oh crap, that was a bad idea," and then but he's already like put it out there, and it's like, "Oh no." Like he has no like he does he's so concerned that if he can, he doesn't think if he should.
Yeah, exactly. I was gonna say like he very much fits the bill of a lot of like tech entrepreneurs of like,
Yes.
why don't I disrupt something instead of just maybe focusing on actual problems that need to be fixed and not disrupted, but like fixed. Like,
Well, because of partially his guilt and partially his love for Storm, he's convinced he can make a machine to give her powers back. And I don't think it worked. I'm not I don't think
well,
it did anything.
initially, it very clearly doesn't.
Yeah.
She's like, nope, it's not, and she's upset, and I don't think she blames him, but he
But
obviously takes it like it,
but
he
at
doesn't
the
want to hurt
same
her.
time,